So, welcome back, everyone, to discuss a little bit more about hypnotherapy. So, what we're going to talk about today is how the mind works, and in particular, the subconscious mind. So, human beings, we all learn through identification and association, and then we have a response based on the identification and association. So, now let me explain how this works in our daily lives. We can be driving in our car and we hear a song, and we'll identify that song as, say, Elton John and the particular song. And then we can associate it back to a time in our lives where it could evoke a happy or a sad response. For example, it could have been a time where we were very happy and we were having a wonderful party with our friends, or it could be a time where we broke up with our boyfriend and then we had a sad response. So this is how we learn through our senses, through our taste, our touch, our smell, hearing, and feeling. All of these senses we can identify and associate experiences with it, and then it'll evoke an emotional response or a physical response within us. So all these experiences that we've had create our behaviors and our perceptions and ultimately our personality. So now that we understand this, let's look at a model of the mind. It's called the theory of the mind. And so when we are born, we come into the world with a clean slate, but we do have some parts of our mind that are already established. And we call this the primitive mind. So in this primitive mind, we have the fight and flight and freeze response. And these come back from the Stone Age, where man was confronted with, say, example, a saber-toothed tiger, and we would have various responses. We would either fight him, or we would run away from him, or we would freeze. And when we freeze, we would get eaten. So this is what brought in these responses that we've come in with as human beings. Now, in modern day situation, man could be faced with a situation where he feels he's been verbally attacked by a colleague. And so his choices is either he fights them, either verbally or with fists, or otherwise he can run away and leave the argument and say, I'm not dealing with this. Or otherwise you can freeze. And freeze often means you go into depression where you actually cannot cope, handle the situation, and you actually do nothing. So we are born with some fears, and then everything else we accumulate throughout experiences that we have in our life. And for example, when someone is born and then they grow up and say perhaps they're 2 years old and they get given a little cute puppy. And from then on, they can associate dogs with a happy experience or pleasure and love. Okay. But then you can have another 2-year-old who could come across a dog and have a negative association or experience with them because the dog jumps up or barks at him. And so this could trigger a response of fear every time he sees a dog. So different people can have different associations for the exact same experience, exact same things. It just depends on the experience that they had with that particular thing. So as we grow up, we have many experiences, and all these experiences create our associations in our mind. And these become known associations, and they all sit in our subconscious mind. So we can have positive known associations where we associate the dog with love or kindness and cuddly and soft, or we can associate the dog with fear because it barked at us. We can associate vegetables as positive or negative, depending on our experiences with it. We can associate school as a positive or kindergarten as positive or negative, friends as positive or negative, depending on our experiences in our life, whether the people around us were good or kind to us, or they were cruel or mean to us. So we can have these different known associations sitting in our mind because in our subconscious mind because of that. So all these known associations sitting in our mind constitute 88% of our mind, and this is called our subconscious mind. Only once we're about 8 years old do we develop a filter or critical mind where we start reasoning, and we don't just take things in as known. We start saying, is this right? Is this wrong? Is this good or is this bad? Prior to around about the age of 8, everything we take in via all our senses, we are just like a sponge, and we absorb the information and take it in as a known association without the ability to evaluate it. So I'm going to stop here. This is just the first section, and the next section is going to deal with our conscious mind and the filter. But for now, we're just going to speak about the subconscious mind and how all these known associations develop our automatic responses and our behaviors and our patterns, where we don't evaluate them and we just often do things without thinking about it because it's sitting in our subconscious mind. And all these things were developed prior to the age of 8, what we saw, we heard, TV programs that we watched. And so often, if we want to change behaviors, we need to look at these, because this is where we have created known associations in our mind without any filter, without any evaluation. And perhaps these could be the things that we would want to change using hypnosis. But join me for the second part where we'll speak further about this.